You know, it's simply amazing how well you can recruit when you don't spend all day on the golf course.
You are Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody, welcome back into Locked On Bama, AHSA Radio Network's Luke Robinson, that's me. Alabama internet legend Jimmy Stein, that's him. This is a special, two specials episode of Locked On Bama. So I want to thank you every day for being here every day. Thank you, newbies, for being here today. And thanks, everybody, for making this your first listen every single day. You guys are the best. And this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. But it's not going to be a full episode. It's going to be a quick live emergency podcast because Alabama has secured commitments from 2 new players today. We thought we were going to do an emergency pod just for 1. Turns out we're doing an emergency podcast for 2. And Jimmy, big fan of both.
Yeah, we've talked a whole lot about the house settlement and how it's affecting the recruiting class, and it's fun for me to just show definitive illustrations. I think we have a couple here, and here's why. First, Javari Barnett, the running back from Tampa. I don't know that he's a great illustration, but it's a pretty good one. He's not a great illustration because this guy's actually pretty highly rated. I know he's not national top 100. I know he's not a 5-star. He's a 4-star on two sites. Rivals says he's the 22nd best running back in the country. That's a pretty big deal when there's only 65 Power 4 schools. That means he's among the top third of backs signed by all Power 4 schools per Rivals. So Barnett's a guy that would probably have been good enough on his own and not coupled with someone else. But for purposes of continuing our theme this week, sort of educating everybody on the new world, the new rules, the post-house settlement world, Crowell and Barnett would be a fantastic duo. Why? Because if you want 2, but one of the 2 is a major 5-star that even Texas is recruiting, it's going to take a significant deal to get that done, right? That means the budget at running back is nearly wiped. If you want a second back, you've got to do a great evaluation and a great sales job. And this is what Alabama did here. This is why it's a home run. It wouldn't necessarily, I'd be with some of y'all if this was just the one back Alabama was targeting and likely to take. I'd be like, gosh, I don't know, in the SEC, maybe you do have to do a little better than that if it's one back. But as a second back, and he's coming off injury, I think this guy could have been potentially a premier RB1 had he never got hurt. That's for one thing. So
let me interrupt you for a second because Randall Green says he meant to say these are really 2 unimpressive pickups. I couldn't disagree more. I could not disagree more. And here's why. Here's what you have to factor in. Exactly what Jimmy has said, but he didn't say it exactly like this. That, okay, Javari Barnett, low 4-star, mid 4-star, 3-star on some services. Fine, he's a good back. If he's your bell cow, we talked about this yesterday with J.J. Finch. If he's your bell cow, okay, I can see why you're not super impressed relative to past Alabama classes and running back pickups. But when you consider that E.J. Crowell is probably going to commit to Alabama this coming Thursday, now it's a superstar pickup. It elevates him and the class. And the other side, the safety pickup, I mean, we're going to talk about him in a second. By the way, I just watched his film. I'm much higher on him than I was before we got his commitment. I can tell you that. I really wasn't like diving into him because he was a new name on the radar. As soon as he committed, I started watching some more of it because I got back to my hotel room and I was like, this guy's kind of a dude. They were both committed to Big Ten teams, and it's the same situation because Alabama's probably going to end up with the commitment from Javari Edwards. That's what it seems like, a 5-star, number 2 safety, number 1 safety in the class, depending on who you look at. And so if they get both of these guys, it's a home run. And if you want to be unimpressed right now, you are looking for a reason to be unimpressed.
Well, I mean, I get it for people that are hyper-focused on rankings. And I'm a rankings guy too. So I get where they're coming from when they're just looking at the rankings, but 2 points. Number one, it's halftime of the rankings. It's halftime. The rankings aren't finalized. They're not even close to finalized. It's literally halfway through the process. So there's a good chance both of these guys are going to be rated even higher by the time the cycle ends. And that's all that matters is your final ranking. No one cares if you're ranked the 60th best player in the country in the final ranking. Is there some person out there that says, yeah, but you were 130th 6 months ago? I mean, no, people only care or should care about the final ranking. We're not even halfway there. But secondly, again, I think it's old world thinking for people to look at a 3-star pickup and just be immediately unimpressed because it's a 3-star. You have to factor in the context of the salary cap, because that's what football's got now, a salary cap, and the fact they could be coupled with someone else. If you go really pricey at safety with a guy from Maryland, then there's not much safety money left. If you go really pricey with a running back from Jackson, then there's not much money left. We have to start thinking in those terms. It's a new world. Flush everything that you used to know, and that's hard to do. It took people years to start understanding what NIL meant. Years. It's going to take years for people to understand this, but it is a part of the new reality. And I do think making great evaluations for these type players is the gold of recruiting right now. When you're not, quote, spending too much. It's basically like going in an NFL draft and the best player you got was your 6th round pick. That's amazing when that happens, and that's what you're kind of aiming for here.
Let me say again, Randall, I don't want you to think I'm picking on you. You're a Bama guy. I appreciate you, but I have highlighted 2 of your comments that I disagree with. You said I'm actually paying attention to the programs we flip them from. Okay, if you're doing that, then again, please factor in that what we've done is our 2nd rated back in this class and our 2nd rated safety in this class were both committed to Big Ten programs. Yes, one of them was Rutgers. Historically, Rutgers is a doormat. At the moment, Rutgers it has at least an upward trajectory. Meanwhile, Illinois, if there's a team out there that knows running backs, it's going to be a team that's coached by Brett Bielema. We talked about this yesterday.
Illinois is a sleeper playoff team this year, and it's probably going to start out in the top. They're probably going to start out in the top 25. But
and I'm going to say it again. If he ends up being the best running back we sign in this class, I'll be on board with you. But he's not going to be 100%.
Well, I certainly hope not. Alabama's in good spot with Kroll, and we'll see what happens, at the end of this week. But again, if we have to give back all the kids that we flip from, quote, lesser programs, then I guess we got to give back Keelan Russell, and I would hate to do that.
Jimmy, you sly dog. That was a good one. I appreciate you.
I have my moments.
All right, I got to tell everybody about FanDuel really quickly. Love FanDuel. I say I have to. I love to tell you about FanDuel. Summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You're already following the action. I know you are. You're watching the games, so why not make it a little more thrilling with FanDuel? You can get in on the game while your friends are getting sun. Oh, my goodness.
Sorry.
While your friends are –
Fought off a sneeze here. You did the same thing yesterday. Fighting off sneezes on the show. I'm allergic to all the great deals at FanDuel, by the way. Great bets.
But if you're new to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. That's an amazing deal. That's a sinus opening deal. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. FanDuel.com. It's where it's at. Jimmy and I don't lie to you. If we're lying, Jimmy will not snort the rest of the show.
No guarantees. I think there's been at least 6 to 8 sneezes throughout the day.
When you did that, I just had a flashback to my SAE days at Alabama.
That sneeze was coming. I needed to take emergency action. And then probably would have been better off with the sneeze, frankly.
Anyway, okay, so now let's talk about the new commitment. We got like 10 minutes.
Ryle Kelly. Let's talk about him. First of all, here's the funny thing about these supposed lesser guys. Here's the funny thing. If I'm describing Ryle Kelly, if I'm like, hey, Luke, Alabama picked up a safety today. He's over 6'3". He ran a true 4.4. Guys on the team were lobbying the coaches to bring him in. You would say, wow, must have finally landed Javari Edwards. No, this other guy, Rael Kelly, who is committed to Rutgers, he's actually probably bigger and faster than the Edwards guy that is the 5-star. Now, Edwards is an awesome player. Hope Alabama gets him. Currently RPM'd to Alabama by Steve Wiltfong and the guys at BOL. Super optimistic that on July 5th, Javari Edwards commits to Alabama. And if coupled with Rael Kelly, that would be a great, as you can expect, safety haul. If y'all are still living in a world where you're upset Alabama couldn't sign Edwards and Jet Washington, you're just going to be upset until the house settlement stuff is just figured out by all the programs, because I just don't see that happening for anyone. Luke went over in the last show how many 3-star. 1/3 of Southern Cal's class are 3-stars. Texas, richest program in the country, 6 3-stars. And those programs and Alabama are just getting started with some of these 3-stars. It is just a feature of the new house settlement rules, or maybe it's a bug, and if it's in your opinion, but this is the reality.
Kenneth Cannon throws in a question here. This is a good question. Look, he said, why they limit y'all to 30 minutes? First of all, this is an emergency podcast, so it won't even be 30 minutes, because all we're doing is we're putting in a bonus show, because when we get a commitment, Jimmy and I like to do emergency podcasts, or when something really big happens. And we couldn't earlier today. I'm in Savannah. We're taking down the Forsyth Park fountain. For those who don't know, it's a pretty big deal. And so I wasn't available. And so when we got the second commitment, I was like, let's just go do one right now. And so Jimmy very nicely agreed. Now, as for why the other shows are 30 minutes, and again, I don't mind telling you, this isn't a secret sauce thing. This isn't secret ingredient. We have been told by the powers that be at Locked On that, not that we have to do, can only do 30-minute shows. They have said research has shown that people like podcasts that are roughly 30 minutes long, maybe 35 minutes sometimes, maybe 28 minutes sometimes, whatever.
It's company-wide. All the Locked On podcasts. All the Locked On podcasts nationally are 30 minutes. Anything past that, and people tend to lose some interest. Now, you want to say, well, Joe Rogan goes for 3 hours. Joe Rogan makes $50 million a year. If Jimmy and I were making $50 million a year, we'd work for about half a year, and we'd work relentlessly for half a year, and then you'd never hear from us again. Locked On's paying you less than $50 million? Yeah. Should I have said that out loud? Should I have said that out loud? So anyway, so Jimmy, in fact, it's about time to wrap this emergency podcast up. I want to say this. I am really hyped up about the new safety. I encourage everybody, go check out his huddle film. Now, I don't know about the competition. That's the only thing that is, well, I guess. He played at Winton Woods, which is the same high school program as Justin Hill and Cam Calhoun. And Tim Watts has a nice nugget about how Justin Hill and Cam Calhoun really went to bat for this guy, to the staff. Like this is a guy we need on this team, and they help sell the staff on Rael Kelly, and then he comes to Tuscaloosa. By the way, Alabama offered Rael Kelly 3 days after he committed to Rutgers. Yeah. So this isn't something that they just came up with this weekend. Now, the official visit was set for this weekend. And again, think of the positions in terms of coupling and who all you're signing. If you're signing an expensive guy at a spot, but you need a second guy too, it's in this house settlement world, you're just not going to sign 2 expensive guys at one position. I mean, it blows the budget for the whole defense or the whole offense. And this is why these are great pickups for Alabama if the evaluations prove to be smart. And there's a good chance. And another way to look at it, it could be that you could be like one of our arch rivals across the state that is hemorrhaging commitments right now. And everybody has used every excuse in the book, from it's because Auburn hadn't won yet. Well, FSU went 2-10 last year. They just flipped a guy from you. Then there's actually a theory out there that everybody is using Hugh Free's cancer diagnosis against him in recruiting. Number one, I'd say, yeah, I bet you there are some, because recruiting is a very dirty game from time to time. Secondly,
I'd also be willing to bet if somebody else had a cancer diagnosis or any other kind of diagnosis, I wouldn't be surprised if some Auburn coaches used it against them. It's the way of the world. Is recruiting is cutthroat, and I'm sorry, I'm not a huge fan of that either, but it happens. And so, look, quit making excuses. My excuse would be, hey, why was your coach on the golf course last weekend when everybody else was having a massive recruiting weekend?
Remember how a year ago Auburn and their fans were pointing at Alabama and giggling, saying they don't know what they're doing over there because Alabama didn't offer a couple of these in-state guys that they were really excited about, and Alabama hadn't offered them, and they're like, hey, they don't even know what they're doing over there. Well, they look like
this
they know
time
what they're
last
doing
year,
now.
Jimmy. This time last year, as something to sign off with, this very time last year, Auburn had the number 1 class in the country.
Wow!
But for this year, and what I'm saying is, it's just it's so funny because everybody was pointing and laughing, and Kalen Deboer, South Dakota doesn't know anything. Ha ha ha!
Oh, how the turntables!
How the turntables have. All right, that's going to do it for this live emergency broadcast. We appreciate you guys, and we will be back tomorrow. And look, tomorrow we're going to talk about some of the things Thomas Castellano said about Alabama, which, wow, like why? And we're also going to talk about a couple of guys that are going to be making announcements. I didn't know this one guy that we're going to talk about tomorrow was going to announce this soon, but he's gonna, and it feels like it's going to be good news for Bama. So we'll see you then. Until then, roll tide, everybody.
Roll Tide.